Reddit by Reddit recap. What line of business is generally more corrupt than people realize? Yelp Better Business Bureau. Basically it is a shakedown to remove poor reviews. Former Yelp employee here. I can say that. At least when I worked there. There were a ton of shady things the company did. And so many valid complaints against them. I was so glad when I got out of there. And have never once looked back. But the whole pay us money to remove reviews thing is legitimately a myth. They definitely aren't the most above board place. But that is factually not something they did. Mega churches in the US. These guys are stealing money hand over fist through the use of flashy sermons and trumped up versions of how the Bible actually works. Not to mention the fact that most of the donations they receive help the people that own the church pay for private jets and mansions. Even if there's a catastrophe in their neighborhood they can't be bothered to send some money their way. After that last tornado in Missouri, a local mega church didn't donate a dime. Meanwhile a local casino donated a large sum of money to the victims. Yup. Joel Osteen didn't douche here in Houston during Harvey. I lived right by the church and there was no water like he tried to say. Meanwhile Mattress Mac opened all his stores for people and did a ton to help. Joel Osteen couldn't be bothered to open the doors to his as a shelter. Without a ton of pressure. After Harvey flooded Houston. His own congregation was basically told to suck it. Mega church operators are ghouls. To their rotten cores. I feel like only 5% of crypto related businesses are ever actually legit. Like. People know there's a lot of sketchiness in that industry. I've just seen so many invest craploads in it anyway and wind up massively screwed. For example. MT. Gox. Quadriga. Etc. Then they have basically zero recourse because crypto is decentralized and therefore incredibly difficult to trace fall or enforcement. Susan G. Komen and the other disease awareness charities. Most of the money donated does not reach the scientists and doctors actually researching cures and treatments. To add to this, the pink breast cancer ribbon isn't trademarked. Meaning anyone can slap that on anything to make it seem charitable when it's really just shady marketing. As a former cancer researcher, I can confirm. They also reject any grant application that studies any treatment that can work on other cancers because they then feel like other cancer organizations are stealing from their brand of cancer. However, scientific standards dictate that all potential treatments must be studied on several different cancer types in the lab and in vivo to be considered a legit study. So it's a catch-22. Do you have an amazing new discovery that could cure breast cancer but also works on prostate or colon cancer? Sorry. No money for you. Sadly. Because the US government cut NIH funding so badly over a decade ago. More and more labs have to rely on charity and industry funding. Which leads to biased results or good research getting defunded and tossed in the circular file. Entire labs are shutting down because of it. Also, look at who Komen takes money from. A lot of food and chemical companies. Dairy consumption is a known cause of breast cancer. But Komen takes money from yogurt companies and lets them slap pink ribbons all over their packaging to give it a false health halo to increase profits. It's hypocritical at best. If Komen was truly interested in preventing breast cancer, they'd stop taking money from the companies that cause it and start educating the public about how to prevent it. Full stop. A lot of non-profit charities are super sketchy the further you look into them. Worked for a non-profit that wasn't a charity. And they had some of the worst employee treatment I have ever experienced. Nursing homes. Doesn't matter if it's the good ones. Their main goal is to get as much money out of the residents and give them high quality care and places to live. Recently a sweet lady I knew passed away and her family was forced to go in and remove her stuff the day she died because this place were now charging them by the day. The nursing home my nana was in tried to do that. The lady had a box. A single box. I was fuming. Luckily my brother got there first, so rather than a shouting match he just got the charge dropped amicably because he's more intelligent than me. Pest control. You can buy almost every single thing we use yourself online without a license. For the price you pay for one service you can get enough stuff to do it yourself for years. Also, Almost all major companies now will spray the outside only if you aren't there because we're required to complete a certain number of jobs a day. So if you never confirmed the appointment we made for you that you never even knew about, guess what? You're still getting sprayed. Mortuary services. You do not need to be embalmed. You do not need an expensive casket. And they are overcharging you for everything. It's a disgusting extortion racket no one does anything about. Worked in the funeral business. Can confirm. I used to be written up on evaluations for not upselling caskets, vaults, and urns to families. Legally you don't even need an urn. If you provide the funeral home with a container they have to use it. I put someone in a coffee can once just like Donnie in The Big Lebowski. In my country, police are some of the most corrupt government servants. They need to pass a very competitive exam to even be considered for the job. They need to pay bribes to the police recruitment board to get into the force after passing the exam. They need to pay bribes to the placement board after training and compulsory rural service to get a posting to an area of their choice. They need to keep ministers, politicians, local gangs protected to keep earning extra money. After this, they expect you to pay at least $100 for every time they stop you in traffic. They are arrogant AF. They have to work 12 hours a day, and will take out their frustration on any common man who tries to get help from them. They will normally list stolen mobiles as lost, so that they do not have to investigate, and the crime stats remain in check. They normally, but reluctantly help anyone who is well connected, or can pay them something extra to do their job. They do not care about the common man, and believe that the laws exist only so that they can extort more money from the tax-paying citizens. Their motto is to wring the last buck out of the common man, terrorize the population, help only the rich and powerful, while not paying heed to the citizens' call for help. They are the Indian police. I believe most of the above rant will apply to many other countries' states' police. I am an international student from Russia, and during orientation day I got into an argument with a guy from Mexico and a guy from Malaysia about whose country's police is more corrupt. Needless to say, it was an argument that lasted hours and still wasn't resolved. It's a rare enough thing to see a police force such as ones in Europe or even us, that actually get their job done and where corruption is almost non-existent. Auto mechanics. There are plenty of honest shops out there, but there are also lots of places that won't think twice about charging for unnecessary repairs, and even for work they haven't actually done. Make sure you're going to someone you know you can trust. My mother's car was running rough, so she took it to a chain shop. They told her that it needed this list of 5 things and that it would be over $400. She then had me look at it since I'm a hobbyist car mechanic. Nothing on that list that they gave her was wrong or needing work. It was all a lie. And the real problem wasn't on that list and was one that I noticed in under 2 minutes of actual looking and fixed it with 10 minutes of work and a $35 part. If she paid that shop for all of that unnecessary work, her car would still be running poorly because they couldn't even be bothered to actually try to fix the issue while they were trying to scam her. I once saw a video where a guy got his brand new car, unplugged one wire in it, and took it to 3 auto shops. Out of the 3, only one fixed it by plugging the wire back in. The rest claimed the engine needed to be replaced or something. Academic publishing. It's not necessarily corruption, but it's a really effed up system. Basically researchers do all the work. Then they send their papers for publication. Other researchers review their articles for free. And when the article is accepted, the publisher asks for $40 from each reader to read one article. And 100% of the money goes back to the publisher. The researchers who wrote the paper do not get 1 cent. It's one of the most profitable industries out there, despite being completely predatory. The thing is, researchers need to publish in specific journals to get tenure or to get funded. And so they are always trying to publish in the top-rated journals instead of publishing in open science venues. This is so true. And don't forget, because of this system, it is almost impossible to publish negative or inconclusive results. This led to lots of questionable tactics of making results look better than they actually were. Hospitals. A lot of people think that health insurance are the cause of crazy medical cost. But hospitals artificially inflate the cost of all services in what is called a charger master, which is a list of the cost of all services that they do not disclose. They raise the cost of services so high so that when they make a deal with insurance, a 50% discount of something that has been made 10x more expense still gives them a huge profit. Real estate. The most corrupt line. That's how you hide your black money. Towing. Companies who tow cars are shady as absolute hell. I had my car towed from the scene of an accident, and I couldn't get an insurance estimate for 4 days because the tow company claimed they didn't have it. Then they charged the insurance company for 4 days of storage after I went to their lot myself and took pictures of my car sitting there. Here in WA, they can sell your car at an auction if they have it for 100 hours. A friend's car got towed from an accident, and it took him nearly that long to find it. I gave him a ride there, and they already had his car on a car carrier to take to an auction. He almost lost his car. It helped from chain companies. Pretty much just Best Buy at this point, but they gouge on their services, or at least did several years ago when I last looked. Not only do they overcharge for their services but usually will go over the estimated time for the repair. The reason for them taking so long is that there is usually only one person in the geek squad who can actually do repairs, and all the other people are more or less cashiers with maybe some minor troubleshooting experience. This is also why they send so many things out for repairs instead of doing them in store. You should just take it to local computer repair shop instead. They will probably do it for half the price in half the time, and will probably give you some recommendations on how to prevent thieving issues in the future. Don't forget the Apple Store. Older generations of iMacs, circa 2013 or so, featured an easily accessible and removable panel on the back that allowed you to update RAM, video card, etc. Newer iMac models are almost a single piece. Installing RAM requires the entire back cover to be removed, leaving the screen highly vulnerable and susceptible to breaking. The cost to fix the screen at the Apple Store is nearly the cost of just buying a new iMac outright. If that's not planned product failure corruption, I don't know what is. Education. Specifically the companies that publish textbooks as well as College Board. The company that has a monopoly on standardized tests in the US. The College Board has lobbied politicians to introduce bills that would have the government pay the standardized test fees for certain students. They also sell students' data, and it's not like students can opt out of taking the test to avoid their data being sold. Best comment of the day. My first job at 16 was car hopping at an R&W. First night, I was one of 2 car hops, very busy, went home with $25 in tips. Second night, different manager, busier than the first night, only me running food. I went home with 50 cents. The manager was sitting behind the register all night, writing bogus tickets, which he covered with my tips. I never went back, expecting employees to come in early, work off the clock for setup, only clock in when the store opened. I've been told, not asked, to work different departments, then written up for not being at my post. Pay withheld until other bills cleared the bank, or not paid at all. Tips being flat out taken, costs we pay you, being written up for their scheduling changes. At Walmart, schedules were posted, written in pencil. I would write down my week's schedule, and put it on my fridge at home. Came in one day, got chewed out, and a write-up for not being there for my shift. Checked the posted schedule. Clear erasure marks, with new hours. I called them out on it, got my hours cut by 15 hours a week for a month. Called corporate, got my hours back. Schedule went up in ink after that. Shorted pay for attitude. I was too busy to cop attitude, took it to the owner, got my pay plus $20, and quit. Any job that expects me to provide work materials, or pay them for the privilege of working for them is an automatic no. Not even expecting you to pay them for a work uniform. Nope. I won't ever wear that ugly thing outside this building. Not paying you for it. Getting fired while underwritten doctor's care, while in a cast.